I never imagined I'd find my ex-husband selling TEA on a train. Just as my new journey began, I will never forget the shudder that ran through my body when I spotted him. There he was, in a faded green cap, stirring a giant pot of steaming liquid. The train rumbled beneath me, but suddenly, it felt like the world stopped. My breath hitched. My heart raced. This wasn't just any train. It was the one that would take me far away from everything I had lost. My palms were clammy. I glanced around, searching for safe eyes, but everyone seemed captivated by the unusual scene unfolding before us. A line of eager passengers formed, drawn by the intoxicating scent of fresh herbs and spices. "Is that?" I whispered almost to myself, my voice shaky. It couldn't be him. My ex. The man I had once laughed and cried with. The man I had swore I'd forget. But there he was, his familiar profile illuminated by the flickering lights of the train carriage. The lines on his face etched deeper with each passing second, his eyes darting around, scanning, almost as if he was looking for me. I slipped sideways to the window, desperately trying to stay hidden and observe this bizarre tableau. I was drowning in memories. The funny way he'd always brewed tea for me in our cramped kitchen, how his laughter would fill our home, now swallowed by silence and regret. My stomach twisted. My new beginning felt overshadowed by this ghost of a past I thought I'd buried. Suddenly, he caught my eye. I felt the rush of adrenaline, the shock tearing through me like a lightning bolt. I didn't want him to see me. Not now, not ever. Yet there was something about his demeanor, the way he was charming passengers, making jokes, laughter rising from his corner like bubbles in a boiling pot. Had he really moved on? While I was left picking up the pieces of my shattered dreams, I thought my heart would break apart completely as I watched him, recalling the life-filled nights and whispered arguments, the way we used to dance in the kitchen to the radio. That life felt so distant now. I could almost taste the betrayal. Before I could register my impulse, the train jolted, a sudden twist that sent me stumbling backward. My breath caught in my throat. The carriage filled with chatter, sounds echoed, creating a strange contrast to the trembling silence I felt inside. Everyone seemed oblivious to the rising tension inside me, except for him. His gaze locked onto mine, a spark of recognition, or maybe confusion. Time slowed. Could I shift through the crowd and escape? Or would I allow myself to confront the man who once held my heart? I felt like a spectator in my own life, the wheels of fate spinning mercilessly as I debated my next move. And then, just as abruptly, everything changed. A woman rushed past me, eyes wide with shock, screaming. "The train is going off the tracks." It felt like a movie moment, time still clicking forward while horror engulfed us. My eyes shot back to him. His expression had shifted, the charm replaced with panic. Would he come to my side? Or would he simply vanish into the chaos? My mind raced. This was it. Everything I thought I'd sorted in my heart was crashing down around me like shattered glass, sharp and dangerous. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air grew thick with fear and disbelief as the woman's words echoed through the compartment, drowning out the laughter and chatter that had just moments ago felt so safe and warm. My heart raced, each beat a staccato reminder of both the impending danger and the presence of the man who once meant everything to me, now standing on the precipice of chaos. Panic shot through the passengers like electric shocks. People clutched each other, their faces twisting with confusion as the train rattled violently. The lights flickered above us, throwing disoriented shadows against the walls. I could see the whites of my fingers pressing against the cold metal of the window frame, anchoring me in a moment I wanted to escape, Anna. His voice cut through the impending doom, raw and desperate. I turned involuntarily, my heart swelling with the familiar warmth of his concern, yet so tightly chained to the bitterness I had fought so hard to escape. His green cap tilted awkwardly as he rushed towards me, his hands reaching out, as if he could somehow shield me from the disaster unfolding. "Just stay calm," he shouted, his eyes wide, almost frantic. "Well, figure this out. We need to get to safety, safety." The word hung heavily in the air. So many memories crashed against the walls of my mind of us searching for safety in our marriage, seeking solace in each other only to find betrayal instead. Would history repeat itself now as we faced this calamity? My instinct screamed at me to push him away, to run to the nearest exit, to remove myself from the source of my pain. But as the train lurched again, pulling me closer to him as he steadied himself, my heart struggled against logic. "Help me," the woman from earlier cried, her voice pulling me back into the moment. I glanced around, people were stumbling over bags and each other, confusion spiraling into panic. The charm of his tea stall faded beneath the weight of the moment, transforming into a scene of survival. "Anna, we need to move," he insisted, his voice softer now, tinged with an urgency that only made me want to cling to this fractured connection. "I can't lose you again." The flickering lights cast shifting shadows around us, and in that dimness, the weight of our past collided with the reality of our present. I didn't understand it, but the old spark of familiarity pulled me closer, battling the instinct to flee. "Where?" I gasped, feeling vulnerable as his presence surrounded me, a mix of fear and hope swirling into uncertainty. "There." He pointed towards the space between cars, a narrow corridor that seemed to beckon. "If we can get there, we can see what's happening. Maybe we can even help." My heart sank, torn between the instinct to run forward and the memories that haunted me, but as he grabbed my hand, that singular act of kindness ignited something deep within me. For a moment, I felt alive again, not just a remnant of the past but a participant in this frantic reality that we plunged into the chaos, weaving past startled passengers, the shriek of metal grinding against metal sending shivers through my spine. I could feel the warmth of his hand holding mine, firm and reassuring. A part of me hesitated, could I really let this man back into my life, even for this fleeting moment? Just then, a violent jolt rocked us, propelling us forward, and I stumbled, my shoulder slamming against the cold steel wall. He caught me before I could fall, pulling me close to him. It felt like a betrayal and a comfort all at once, his breath warm against my face as he murmured reassurances that barely registered above the din. "I won't let you go. I promise," he said, and that familiar ache filled my chest. But as we reached the walkway connecting the cars, the train lurched again, a loud screech and then, an agonizing crash. The sound of metal twisting and bending echoed in my ears, and time slowed as I felt the air leave my lungs. Then, everything changed. In the split second of that devastating noise, darkness flickered across my vision, and I was suddenly aware of the screams piercing through the chaos. The world around me morphed into a blur. Then came the sudden silence, followed by an oppressive weight. I felt hands grasping at me, but it wasn't just him. I pulled away, trying to find focus amidst the sudden stillness that fell like a shroud. The rubbery taste of fear and confusion coated my mouth. "Anna." His voice called again, but this time the distance seemed insurmountable. I couldn't see him. "Stay close." Panic surged again, flooding my senses. My thoughts spun like leaves caught in a storm. I felt the weight of decision bear down on me. Could I trust him again? Would he be someone I needed as I took my first steps into an uncertain future? And then, as if the universe had heard my internal battle, my feet found the edge, teetering on the brink of reality and despair. I took a breath, bracing for what was to come, but in that haunting moment, darkness enveloped me, pulling me under. Just before it all faded, I heard a terrifying crash that rattled the very essence of my being. A scream that wasn't mine echoed through the chaos, a name spoken with a desperation that shattered the silence I had felt creeping in. Then, all went black. Light seeped in slowly, warm and golden, its softness counteracting the chill that wrapped itself around me. I blinked against the brightness, trying to piece together where I was and what had happened. The remnants of my fear clung like shadows to my consciousness, and as my muddled thoughts settled into place, I felt the clamoring chaos of the train rush back. "Anna, please." A voice, low yet urgent, broke through the haze, wrapping around me like a lifeline. My heart throbbed at the sound, a tether pulling me to someone who cared, someone who needed to be near me. With effort, I turned my head, feeling the weight of my body shift as I came into focus on the stark reality before me. He was there, kneeling beside me amidst the wreckage, mud streaked across his face where dust and tears mixed into a tapestry of despair. His eyes, once so bright, now darkened by fear and sorrow, were locked onto mine, radiating an urgent plea. "Are you okay? Can you tell me where it hurts?" The world spun slightly as I pushed myself upright. I glanced around at the destruction-twisted metal, shattered glass, and scattered belongings, remnants of lives interrupted. The cacophony outside was a grim reminder of the chaos that had unfolded only moments before I had lost myself. I think so," I stammered, my voice hoarse, its weakness betraying the storm inside me. The pounding of my heart was still a war cry, echoing the doubts that swirled. Would running to him be my salvation or my downfall? His hands trembled slightly as he reached out, catching my palm carefully. "You hit your head pretty hard. We need to get you out of here." The warmth of his grip was grounding, anchoring me in a sea of uncertainty, even as my instincts warned me to pull away. "Where's everyone else?" I asked, panic creeping back in as I surveyed the debris. The stark absence of familiar faces weighed on my heart. What had become of the laughter and warmth that had flowed through the train just moments ago? I don't know. He hesitated, the ghost of his usual confidence flickering. "Well, find them, but first, we need to get to safety." His eyes held mine, channeling his strength toward me, and despite the thick veil of fear, a flicker of something that resembled hope ignited within us. Together, we maneuvered around jagged remnants, weaving through the scattered belongings and the faint cries floating from the outside. Every stroke of my heart echoed my past, and I faltered slightly, haunted by memories that spoke of betrayal and loss. But there, alongside that lingering pain, was his presence, a pulse of kindness that whispered of redemption. As we stumbled into an open space, the full force of what had transpired pressed down on us like a weight too heavy to bear. "We can't stay here long," he said, urgency lined with worry etched into his features. "Help is coming, but we need to be ready." The fervor in his tone pulled me from spirals of despair, forcing my focus onto the present. "Why did you come back for me?" I blurted, the question demanded by the very core of me. It hung in the air, heavy and desperate, filled with swirling doubts yet punctuated by a flickering hope that maybe, just maybe, there was still something worth salvaging between us. He met my gaze, the walls had once built around himself crumbling as he stepped closer, so easily bridging the gap that fate had carved. "Because I care, Anna. No matter what's happened, no matter how things fell apart, I can't walk away when you need me." My breath hitched, memories of laughter, of love, and of trust brushed against the frayed edges of my heart. But those memories also carried the weight of the lies and fractures that had splintered us, a reminder of the pain woven through our shared history. Yet standing here now, it seemed foolish to cling only to the past when the present was so precarious. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a sharp crack of wood splintering echoed from behind us, accompanied by a deep rumble that shook the ground beneath our feet. The tremor sent us both staggering against the chaos, and for a moment, I felt the ground shift beneath our fragile connection as well. "Anna, we have to move now." He lunged forward, pulling me into motion, the urgency in his voice spearing through me like a rush of adrenaline. Threads of fear intermingled with something new. This was a new chance, albeit under the shadow of calamity. Each step was a gamble, and I grappled with the choice before me. Would I retreat back into the darkness of my past, or dare to take a leap of faith toward an uncertain future? As we burst through a splintered door, the outside world opened before us like a raw wound. Smoke billowed against a sky tinged with hues of despair. The scenes unfolding around us painted a picture of chaos, people helping, running, some with bloodied faces, and others clinging to each other in desperation. But within that tapestry of turmoil, we were still together, and as I looked at him, I realized something frightening yet liberating. The past was a weight I could bear, but the decision to step into this uncertain path with him was mine alone to take. Just as the wind swept around us, whispering tales of courage and survival, my heart surged with a quiet defiance. In that moment, a distant figure emerged from the haze, one that brought my heart to a near halt. I recognized him instantly, a face I had feared losing but had never truly let go of. The woman from moments ago, now standing resolutely, searching frantically. There was a crack in her expression, something haunting that made my heart race anew. "Anna! Help me!" she screamed, her hands trembling as she pointed past the debris, and in that moment, my heart dropped, battling against the chains of allegiance to my past. What awaited us there could shatter everything once more. The chaos enveloped me as if it were the very air I breathed, thick, suffocating, and riddled with the collective anguish of 100 hearts shattered in an instant. I hadn't realized until that very moment how much I had been holding back, bracing myself against the tides of pain and uncertainty that had surged through my life post-divorce. "Anna! Help me!" The voice beckoned again, sharper and more desperate this time. My gaze flicked towards the figure amidst the wreckage, a heart-wrenching beacon that pulled at my very core. There she stood, shrouded in dust with wide, pleading eyes, clutching a tattered backpack that contained fragments of a life I had once shared. "Renee!" I shouted instinctively, the name emerging from my lips before I had a chance to filter the torrent of emotions it surged forth. Memories cascaded back, laughter over shared dinners, dreams whispered in the dark, plans that had never come to fruition. Here was the woman who knew me better than anyone, the one I lost to the fractures of our longing and longing for somethings we could never recover. "Please, I can't find Chris," she cried, glancing around frantically as though summoning him with her eyes alone. The mention of my brother locked away all emotions in a chastity belt, grinding my heart relentlessly, and there it was, the weight of loyalty, of love, thrust upon me amid the wreckage of despair. "Anna," the voice beside me whispered, pulling me back into the present. His presence was both a lifeline and a tether, the warmth of his hand gripping mine still emboldened my resolve to face the impossible. "We can't stay here. We have to get as far away from this collapse, get to safety," he urged, a tremor in his voice revealing the stress he bore that mirrored my own, but the agonizing plea from Renee anchored me, rendering me immobile. "I can't, I have to help her." My voice was a low murmur, threading uncertainty through the urgency of our moment. I felt torn, my heart divided among the ruins of my past, the reality of the present, and an uncertain future held together by the fragile threads of hope. "Anna, if we stay here, we might lose everything," he insisted, the warmth of his hand intensifying as he squeezed mine, as if trying to grant me strength from his core. His eyes searched my face, pleading for clarity. "You can't fix what's broken without risking your own pieces in the process." The weight of his words resonated deeply, urging me to reflect on the cost of choice. The flames of the past flickered at the edges of my mind, embodying the challenge of confronting pain while seeking solace in moments of clarity. Were the ghosts of yesterday truly worth sacrificing my safety, my sanity, and the possibility of recovery alongside him? "Please, Anna," his voice cracked slightly, revealing vulnerability. "I can't lose you too." Everything pinned itself to that moment, the agony of lost love, the crushing fear of abandonment, and the bittersweet taste of forgiveness that lingered unsaid. But just as I thought I had made my choice, Renee stumbled toward me, her eyes glazed with unshed tears. "You have to help me find Chris. I can't do this alone." There floated the intangible bond of shared history, echoing the depths of betrayal and heartache behind us.my mind spun, grappling with the promise that had surged through me not so long ago, the promise of journeying forward together, unmade by the breaking of the past. But could I abandon my brother's partner in that moment of need? "Renee," I stepped closer, the gravity of the situation weighing heavily on my heart. "Did you check the back? Was he seated there? The whole train went down, I don't know," she cried, desperation framing her features, and every word was a dagger twisting deeper into my conscience. In that moment, the very air crackled with unresolved pain, and I wondered if my heart bore the duality to save those I had loved, even if the act of doing so splintered my own heart once more. Anna. His voice was both an anchor and a tremor in the growing storm. If we don't leave soon, we might not survive this. A wild fear coursed through me. Could I find a way to bridge the past and the present, to turn the agony of heartbreak into a thread of connection woven into my future? I glanced towards the smoky haze beyond me, witnessing families embrace, individuals rise from ash, and souls that sparked burning embers of resilience. Perhaps history didn't have to repeat itself. Perhaps, in my attempt to secure my present and future, there lay a chance for reconciliation. "Renee, I promise to help you find him," I said, the words bursting forth from a place of genuine determination. "But we need to stick together. You and I could." Just then, the ground tremored violently once more, sending a wave of panic flooding through me. Bobbing debris rained down, and above the cacophony, I spotted something familiar within the haze. It was a figure, somewhat stooped, moving along the wreckage toward us, the characteristic so achingly recognizable. Renee's voice broke my fogged thoughts. Is that Chris?" My breath caught, and the world around me stilled for that eternal moment. What I had wished for appeared before me not as a memory held fast but as a vivid possibility. Would this fragment of my past bring healing and unity, or would it veer into yet another abyss of despair? As I took a step forward, my heart split between hope and dread, hoisted upon the precipice of a truth that could shatter us all once more. The dust settled like a heavy shroud across the wreckage, creating an eerie stillness that hung in the air. Chris was unsteady in his movements, staggering past the remains of the train like a ghost searching for what was lost. Each step he took reverberated with echoes of our past, each tremor awakening old wounds stitched together over years. "Chris." Renee's voice cut through the silence, raw and desperate. She surged forward, leaving behind the remnants of her lost dreams in search of one last connection to a life that felt like a distant memory. I stood frozen, caught in the ripple of emotions that washed over me. The walls I had built crumbled at the sight of him. The man who had once been my confidant, my love, now stood as a reminder of everything I thought I had left behind. Every part of me wanted to run to him, to feel the warmth of familiarity rushing back, yet a fierce wave of resentment surged from deep within. The ghost of our marriage haunted my thoughts, a specter of unfulfilled promises and a love that had morphed into a haunting shadow that loomed over us. What would it mean for us to be together again after all that had shattered us? "Please be okay," I whispered to myself, even as I sensed his mere presence could unravel the fragile threads of hope I had just begun to weave with Carl. My heart thudded relentlessly, struggling to align the conflicting realities unfolding before me. Is he all right? I finally managed to ask, my voice trembling with the weight of uncertainty, fear, and something almost resembling hope. Renee reached his side and gripped his arm tightly, her eyes searching his face as if she could read the pages of his soul. "Chris, I thought I lost you." Tears streamed down her cheeks, glistening with a mixture of relief and disbelief. I felt invisible, a witness to a poignant reunion that cut deeper than any moment I had previously encountered. "They're all gone," Chris murmured, his voice barely audible above the chaos. A chill ran through me at his words, the gravity of the situation further cementing the reality that we were in the midst of a catastrophe that had irrevocably altered our lives. The weight of grief existed in him like an anchor pulling us deeper into despair. "I lost everyone." A lump formed in my throat at the sight of their reunion, each embrace an echo of our shared past, intertwining threads of love and longing tangled within us all. Yet I felt removed, distanced by fragments of bitterness that emerged like old wounds reopened. What right did I have to intrude upon a moment so intimate and profound? But as I stood there, Carl's hand slipped back into mine, his calm presence a reminder that there was hope to be found amid the wreckage. "We need to move," he urged softly, yet there was a tenderness behind his voice that made me question everything I thought I knew. He didn't push me to let go of my past, but rather encouraged me to build a future, to embrace the unknown alongside him. "Together, right?" I squeezed his hand tightly, breathing in the warmth that radiated between us like a bond one craved to nurture. In that brief moment, I considered a fragile thread of hope could exist in this newfound connection, no matter how fleeting against the backdrop of our surroundings. "Chris, I stepped forward, my heart thudding against my ribs as the world trembled beneath me, unsure of how to bridge the gap between decades of confusion, pain, and love. What do we do now? We can help each other. His gaze met mine, confusion and recognition all mingled in one sweeping glance, hesitant. Anna? The way he spoke my name stirred memories of simpler times, yet that familiarity somehow felt like an offense to the life I had fought to reassemble. You're here? Renee turned to me, her eyes wide with a mixture of gratitude and fear, as if she were desperately clinging to any hope of stability amid the turmoil. You can't leave us, Anna. We need you. The walls of my heart rose with hesitation as I watched the two of them, feeling the old hauntings encroaching upon my present. But perhaps this ruin could be the vessel through which we could find clarity. Perhaps loss could carve out space for rebirth. Suddenly, the ground shook violently again, fracturing my thoughts further, sending debris tumbling toward us. In a reflexive action, I pulled Carl behind me, shielding him from the chaos erupting around us. This was not the kind of connection I had envisioned building on hope, it was one laced with desperation, made heavier by impending violence that I need to get you both to safety. I shouted, adrenaline surging through me as I took inventory of my own emotions, a blend of anxiety and reluctant protectiveness, a latent strength awakening within me. Where will we go? Chris questioned, his brow furrowed with uncertainty, any strength he had shown moments before now diminished under the strain of gravity pressing down, but just as the urgency rose, a distant sound broke through the turmoil, the faint ring of laughter, almost rhythmic and innocent, juxtaposed against the despair around us. It reverberated through the wreckage, drawing our attention. Was it a child? A survivor singing? It felt startlingly out of place in that moment, as jarring as fireworks in a storm. Renee looked toward the sound, her expression shifting from anguish to curiosity. Did you hear that? Yes, I murmured as the echo resonated within, mesomething, fragile yet vivid, a reminder that life could still bleed joy from the cracks of despair. Follow it, Carl urged, but uncertainty rooted me to the spot as fear tugged at my heart. What if it was a trick? What if it led us deeper into danger, and yet, could it be a flicker of hope, a signal that amid all this chaos, fragments of life still thrived? But just as I looked into the eyes of the people I loved, I felt a new realization wash over me. The life we'd shared could not coexist with the lingering shadows. Healing meant embracing the unknown, confronting the fear rather than letting it bind me to a past I could no longer reclaim. And standing before my brother and wife, surrounded by disarray yet surprisingly tethered by the shared need for survival, a voice called back, piercing through the chaos, "Then let's find a way forward, together," I proclaimed, feeling that despite everything that had leveled us, we still had a chance. But just as determination ignited inside me, a deafening crack echoed through the air, and I turned to see the very platform we stood on shift ominously, tilting further into the abyss. The ground beneath our feet felt increasingly unstable. Run! I screamed in that moment of panic, uncertainty swirling in my veins as we raced toward the glimmer of hope, hurtling toward the unknown as a new chapter unfolded in the midst of chaos. The moment we bolted into motion, a primal instinct engulfed us, pushing us to escape whatever unseen force sought to claim us. The laughter, that inexplicable spark amidst the chaos, beckoned like a lighthouse in a storm, guiding us toward something we desperately needed, an anchor in the whirlpool of despair. As we surged forward, the world distorted around us, the wreckage seemed to shift and pulse, as if it were alive and aware of our frantic effort to break free. I moved instinctively, the air thick with a cocktail of fear and determination, but I could feel the weight of my past racing beside me. Chris, the man who had once filled my days with joy, now struggled with the burden of failed hopes and heartbreak. And Renee, full of love yet tethered to the haunting shadows of our shared history, fought valiantly to keep us both intact. The laughter grew louder, and my heart responded as if each melodic note plucked at the strings of my soul. Was it possible that something so pure could exist here? The sound danced in the air, embracing us like a soft hug amidst the chaos. I glanced back for just a moment, my eyes locking with Chris. I saw the truth reflected there, pain mixed with longing, like battling tides against the shore of his heart. But before I could form a cohesive thought, something sharp streaked across my peripheral vision. Suddenly, the ground beneath us heaved violently, a roar emanating from deep within the earth, erasing all traces of what had once been a semblance of certainty. "Hold on!" I shouted, reflexively lunging to grab Renee's arm as her footing slipped. We barely regained our balance as we tumbled forward, the laughter engaging us, drawing us deeper into our uncertainty. Then, a voice broke through the frenetic energy. It resonated strong and steady, grounding me amidst the whirlwind. A woman appeared in front of us, her eyes sparkling with an understanding that felt achingly profound. "This way," she urged, extending her hand toward us. Without hesitation, I grasped it, our fingers weaving together like threads in a tapestry, as if she was stitching together our fractured souls. "We have to move," she urged, her voice laced with urgency. "What are you doing here?" Chris gasped, still panting from the exertion, surprise etched into his features. "Helping," she replied simply, her resolve unwavering. "There are others ahead. Survivors. We can't leave anyone behind." My heart swelled with gratitude. A flicker of hope lit the cavernous shadows gripping my mind. This stranger, a symbol of kindness amid despair, felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. "Let's go." Carl's voice broke through the mix of emotions pulsing within me. He reached for Chris, the now familiar warmth of his hand a stark contrast to the fear enveloping us. The connection rippling between us sent waves of strength coursing through my veins. As we ran in unison, from behind us, I caught sight of the sprawling wreckage, the remnants of our old lives fracturing before our eyes. The childlike laughter faded momentarily, replaced by the murmur of chaos. The rushing, tearing sounds of destruction echoed in the depths of my heart. My breaths came faster, memories of a life once filled with ease colliding with the now an existential storm where everything was at stake. We navigated through the debris, pushing against the instinct to look back, the urge to hold on to the past boiling beneath the surface. We were each clawing at our own turmoil, directed by the promise of surviving this catastrophe. Whoever we were meant to be in the aftermath remained a mystery, and then, as we rounded a corner, the laughter greeted us again, vibrant and boisterous, cutting through the despair. There, amid the wreckage, we stumbled upon a clearing lit by beams of sunlight filtering through the clouds, a sanctuary forged out of chaos. In the center, a group of survivors gathered, their faces radiant against the dark backdrop of destruction. Among them, I caught sight of children, some covered in grime but otherworldly in their innocent laughter, their voices naught but echoes of joy playing above the devastation. We weren't alone. I whispered, a wave of relief mingling with disbelief. Tears unwittingly pooled in my eyes. I hadn't realized how deep my yearning for connection had run until this moment. "Isn't it amazing?" the woman we had followed said, excitement tingling in her voice. "Even here, we can still find joy." As I stood witnessing this spontaneous carnival of resilience, I felt the fractures within me quaking, shaky yet promising. It unveiled a truth I refused to acknowledge until now: the potential for beauty and healing existed, no matter how cavernous the wounds. But just as we began to approach this newfound circle of community, hand in hand, a shadow fell among the light. From the periphery, a figure loomed, a man, tall and stoic, with a presence that blanketed the warmth around us with an oppressive chill. All laughter ceased. The world stopped spinning as I felt my breath catch in my throat. Recognition hit me like a freight train, colliding with all those remnants of pain I had tucked away. It was him, Walter, the man whose presence had haunted me in every decision I'd made since we parted. "Anna," he said softly, his voice like gravel rolled over glass. The world around me began to fray at the edges, and in an instant, all that I had fought to build began to tremble, unraveling into uncertainty once again. "Walter?" The calmness in his voice struck like thunder, and the ragged vestiges of my past flooded into the forefront of my mind. Here, amidst this sanctuary of survivors, my heart raced not only for my own tumultuous journey but for the pandemonium that Walter's arrival heralded. In that moment, time ceased to exist, and all I could do was brace myself for the onslaught of emotions ready to rain down upon me, much like the fractures scattered through the ground around us. I was about to discover just how deep the shadows extended, what truths lay buried beneath, and if the light of hope we'd forged together could withstand yet another storm. The weight of Walter's gaze bore down on me, anchoring me in place, as the laughter of children faded into silence. I had thought the storm of my past had cleared, but with him standing there, the winds began to swirl once more, drawing me back to a time I thought I had escaped. "Anna," he repeated, and each syllable dripped with an undeniable blend of nostalgia and loss. The warmth of our shared history felt cold now, a blanket that had once comforted me but now suffocated. My heart thumped erratically, desperately seeking a familiar rhythm amid the cacophony of emotions erupting within me. "Why are you here?" I managed, barely whispering the words. Every bit of strength I summoned felt futile against the reality of his presence, not just a ghost of my past but a living testament of everything I had tried to leave behind. That he took a step closer, the shadows deepening across his face. "I came to find you," he said. "I've been looking for you since the accident." His words hung heavily in the air, mingling with the distant laughter of the children, a cruel juxtaposition of innocence and the wreckage of our hearts. Memories swirled around me like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind, our shared dreams, our laughter, the slow decay of love turning into resentment. I could feel the pleading energy radiating from him. It pulled against the tug of my own longing to run, to escape the painful entanglement of our past. "Find me?" I echoed, my voice laced with disbelief. Somehow, his journey felt absurd against the backdrop of my painful yearning for release. "You left, I know." His frustration broke through my thoughts, raw and turbulent. "I thought time apart would heal what we shattered. But I've realized I can't move on until I know you're okay." I had to come back to see for myself. The world around us seemed to blur, the survivors fading into mere silhouettes as I drowned in the intensity of his gaze. Each heartbeat bathed me in the flood of old feelings I had sought to bury: love, anger, betrayal, forgiveness. "Do you think you can just waltz in here and fix things?" I heard a voice rise beside me. It was Carl, who had been silently absorbing the tension. His eyes flicked between me and Walter, a mix of protectiveness and concern. "She's been through so much." "You're not the answer. No, I'm not," Walter admitted, his voice unsteady. "But if you let me explain, maybe I can at least share my truth with her." Once and for all, the air crackled with electricity, a silent standoff pulsing between the three of us. I sensed the protective bond Carl formed around me, but there was a part of me that was curious, aching for honest closure. I had never fully understood why love had crumbled between us. Maybe this was the chance to unravel that mystery or deepen the pain. Voices around us faded away when the children erupted into laughter again, prompting a ripple of warmth that momentarily broke through the tension. The woman who had guided us over to the gathering smiled at the scene, her optimism brightening the darkest corners of my heart. "You're safe here," she whispered to me, as if sensing the struggle that unfolded before us. "You can choose to listen or to hold on to your past. But remember, you have the power to decide where you go from here." Her gentle encouragement became a lifeline, reawakening a flicker of resilience. I looked back at Walter, the man who had once represented the entirety of my world. "What do you want to say?" His expression softened, revealing the anguish beneath the stoic surface. "We were wrong about each other," he began, his words spilling into the space between us. "I wanted something you couldn't give, and I was selfish for it. But every day since I've carried the weight of my mistakes with me. I can't imagine what you've endured, but I need you to know I never stopped caring." As he spoke, soft echoes of our shared memories surged: sunlit mornings, quiet contemplations, adventures in laughter. Each recollection stirred up a twisted mixture of emotions within me. My heart raced, both terrified and eager at the possibility of reckoning with the past. Before I could formulate a response, the ground trembled beneath us again, shaking us back into the moment, a powerful reminder we were still precariously suspended between chaos and connection. The children gasped, laughter vanishing like fog in sunlight, their once innocent faces turning towards the menacing shadows rising at the periphery of our sanctuary. "Everyone, stay back!" the woman shouted, her voice breaking through our bubble of confrontation. A rumble echoed ominously, heavier this time, as if the earth itself were protesting our attempts to elevate the past. I turned to look around, my heart pounding. "What is that?" I breathed, a new dread coiling within me. In an instant, our gathering was cast into chaos. The figure of Walter flickered at the edge of my vision, but my instinct screamed at me to focus on the immediate threat. A fissure opened before us, and a plume of dust erupted upwards, a sign of something terrible awakening within the ruins we thought we had moved beyond. Fractured history collided with our fleeting moment of peace, leaving us dangling not only on our unresolved feelings but now on the precipice of something much more dangerous. Just as our laughter turned into screams, I turned back to Walter, ready to shout, to demand answers, to find a tether within the storm, only to realize he was gone, swallowed by the thickening shadows, leaving behind an empty silence that thundered in my heart. Was this merely fate stirring the past back into our lives, or was this a more sinister message that I had yet to grasp? In that moment of uncertainty, I was left questioning everything once more, the clearest path muddied before me, and dread gripped me tighter than the shadows ever could. The sound of the earth rumbling echoed long after Walter vanished into the shadows, a cacophony of uncertainty and fear wrapping around me like an unwelcome cloak. I stood frozen in the thickening chaos, the lingering shock of his presence fueling both hope and despair. Had I truly returned to the past only to lose him again? The laughter of children had transformed into an eerie silence, leaving behind the weight of unresolved conflicts and unspoken truths that churned restlessly within me. "Carl!" I finally shouted, my voice trembling amidst the clamor of upheaval. His face emerged through the dust, eyes wide with alarm as he rushed toward me, his protective instinct radiating like a shield. "Are you okay?" He grasped my arms, grounding me in the moment, but the question felt almost absurd against the backdrop of unraveling terror. How could I be okay when every second brought forth new memories I wasn't prepared to face? "We need to get everyone to safety now," I managed, the urgency in my tone pushing through the haze of confusion. The woman from before shouted orders, guiding families toward exits that led away from the disturbance, her voice carrying a calm that seemed defiant against the odds. "Come on," Carl urged, tugging me forward, but I hesitated, a heavy pull urging me back toward the shadows where Walter had disappeared. Did he find safety in there, or was he caught in the maelstrom of our broken dreams? "Anna!" Carl's voice broke through my reverie, his grip tightening on my arm. "We can't risk it. He's gone." The truth hit me like icy water. In this moment, Walter was nowhere in sight. I felt a pang of betrayal of my heart for wanting to cling to the idea of him rather than the reality we shared. With a resigned sigh, I let Carl lead me towards the nearest exit, the sounds of chaos fading into a distant echo as we retreated from the scene. As we ran, a thought struck me amidst the madness: this entire calamity might not just be a haunting of the past, but a chance to confront it. To see what lay beyond the wreckage. As the shadows of our history loomed behind me, I embraced a sliver of determination. I could not allow my life to be a series of reactions to the ghosts that haunted me. I needed to choose, and that choice began with being brave even when the ground felt unsteady beneath me. The frenetic energy surrounding us eventually gave way to a surreal calm. We emerged into an open area punctuated by the gentle buzz of frantic conversations, people gathering to assess the fallout from the chaos. Among them, I caught sight of the woman, her tenacity drawing others toward her. "Stay close," Carl murmured, squeezing my hand as we made our way toward her, my heart racing with a blend of fear and anticipation. But for a fleeting moment, that sense of stability unraveled as I recalled Walter's words. "I never stopped caring. Could love bloom again from the ashes of our past?" What did he mean when he said his truth? I glanced back toward the darkness behind us, half expecting to see him re-emerge from the swirl of dust. But the only thing waiting beyond was the past I was trying to escape. "Gather around, everyone," the woman shouted, her voice breaking through my spiraling thoughts. "We need to discuss a plan, and we need everyone's help. As I stood there, contemplating the chaos within and around me, a small child emerged from the gathering, her eyes brimming with innocent wonder despite the turbulence. She approached me cautiously, clutching a toy rabbit that looked worn but beloved. "Are you sad?" she asked innocently, her tiny voice cutting through the thick air of grown-up fears. The sheer earnestness of her question took me by surprise, making me momentarily forget about the swirling conflict within. "No, sweetheart, not anymore," I found myself saying. It was a lie, but in the simplicity of that moment, it felt like a promise to try. Her little nod filled me with a comforting warmth, rekindling a fleeting sense of hope. "Okay," she replied cheerfully, before scampering back to her mother, oblivious to the weight of adult sorrows surrounding her. I watched her retreat and realized that perhaps the small gestures could lead to something larger, could help repair more than just one heart. "Anna," Carl said softly, drawing me back to him with a concerned tilt of his head. "Are you ready to talk about what just happened?" "Not yet," I confessed, a sudden wave of exhaustion washing over me. "There's a lot to unpack, but I need to find Walter." Carl sighed, concern etched across his face. "I'll help you. But let's focus on the here and now. You need support, not just to chase shadows." A deep breath filled my chest, steeling me for the journey ahead. I nodded, committing to the path before me. The storm might linger, but I had to believe that in the midst of swirling destinies, there could be a thread of hope tying me to others. As we turned back to rejoin the frantic crowd, I felt a rush of determination flooding my veins. I'd find my place again while confronting the specters of my past. And somewhere in the shadows, perhaps Walter awaited a reckoning I never imagined we would have. But before I could breathe in the optimism pulsating in my chest, a sudden scream pierced through the crowd. My heart dropped. "What was that?" I shouted, my voice carrying over the chaos. In the distance, dark figures emerged, shapes twisted and wrong, drawing closer, a frantic energy spiraling back into our midst. I felt the ground tremble once more, a reminder that what lay ahead would not just be about confronting the past, it would be about confronting whatever darkness awaited us now. Would I find Walter before the storm descended again? Or would he slip away like a shadow, leaving me to navigate this tangled web of fate alone? My breath hitched, dread creeping back in, as I realized that the real battle was only just beginning. The scream echoed like a banshee wail, slicing through the crowd's commotion, sending a tremor of dread coursing through me. I turned, eyes scanning the mass of faces, confusion, fear, and disbelief tangled together among them. Carl's grip on my hand tightened as we pushed toward the front, the clarity of intention overshadowed by an undercurrent of panic. "What do you see?" he asked, his voice low, but the concern wrapped around each word made my stomach knot tighter. "I don't know," I gasped, propelled by an instinct to protect everyone around me. There was something unmistakably menacing approaching. "We have to help." As we drew nearer, the figures became clearer, grotesque shadows tearing through the remnants of calm. Panic erupted as my mind raced, recalling stories of nightmares lurking in the folds of reality. Were they real? Or were they manifestations of our despair, the very fears we had run from? The air around us thickened, each breath a reminder that safety felt like a cruel delusion. I glanced at Carl, his face a mask of determination with a hint of fear flickering beneath. In that moment, something ignited within me, a refusal to let darkness win. "We can't let them through," I shouted over the din, grasping the urgency blooming within me. I spotted the woman from earlier, rallying the loose fragments of humanity that remained together. "We need to form a line, defend ourselves, whatever it takes." I turned to see the kid with the toy rabbit still clinging to her moth-era, a symbol of innocence amidst chaos. That child embodied the hope I was trying to cling to, a reminder of what truly mattered. People needed to fight for their lives, to resist slipping into despair. "Everyone, follow her lead," I commanded, pointing to the woman who was trying to establish an order. "We can hold them off together." The fear was palpable, yet it became clear that within our fear lay the power to unite. I strutted forward, adrenaline pulsing through my veins, and gripped Carl's hand tighter, knowing that I could rely on him even amidst the chaos. As we joined the growing line, I caught sight of movement in the throng. Was that Walter? The recognition swelled in my chest, a bittersweet surge of feeling that left me breathless. For an agonizing moment, time slowed as I locked eyes with him, his face obscured by the shadows but unmistakably the same. Hope and trepidation battled inside me, questions mounted around who he had become. Anna. He shouted, his voice breaking through the madness, as he reached for me, drawing out a desperate plea. Walter! I cried, the world around me fading into white noise, each heartbeat measured against the onslaught of everything I felt: anger, betrayal, love, and piece after piece of an unfinished story. He seemed closer yet impossibly far, hovering on the edge of safety. Stay back. Carl's voice cut through, the tension snapping as he took a threatening step forward, instinct and protectiveness radiating from him. Wait! But before I could explain, a deafening roar erupted, drowning out my thoughts. The figures surged toward us, and the crowd screamed, a collective gasp that felt like a prayer for survival. Walter fell back into the crowd, and in the chaos, I lost sight of him, the moment sprawling beyond my grasp like quicksand. No! I shouted, my voice raw with panic. All sense of reason fractured as I pushed against the tide, desperate to find him. The mass of humanity engulfed us, limbs entwined in a dance of survival, while flashes of hope dimmed around me. Anna. The woman's voice called, her hands firmly grasping mine as she pulled me toward her. We need to regroup. We can't lose people trying to run in every direction. I glanced once more at the shadows encroaching, feeling the fear crack through my veneer of resilience. I can't leave him. The words faltered on my lips. Walter's not the only one who needs you, she replied softly, her gaze locking on mine, determination shining in the flurry of chaos. We all need each other right now. Her words summoned a flicker of that connection I had found in the young girl's innocent eyes, the sense of community woven through shared fears. Not everyone could be lost in the vortex of desperation, not while I held on to something tangible. We can fight, but we fight together, I said, my voice gaining strength. As the horde pushed closer, we formed a circle, solidifying our collective will. I turned my focus back to the shadows, heart pounding as they crawled nearer, a terrible combination of human rage and despair binding together in an ominous veil. But even as darkness threatened to cast its shroud over us, I sensed a glimmer of resolve pulsing at the edges of fear. I won't let fear win this time, I vowed. I locked eyes with the woman beside me, her fierce spirit igniting something deep within me. We stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever horrors awaited. With every breath, I felt more certain that resilience breathed through us, entwined with our shared resolve. Then, from the sidelines of the fray, a silhouette caught my attention, a figure emerging, much like a ghost from the past, carrying an unmistakable signature of warmth. As the darkness surged around us, a deeper instinct kicked in, illuminating a path I wasn't sure I was ready to take. Just as the ominous figures closed in, I felt a shove against my back. Stumbling, I turned, eyes wide. It was Carl, confusion etched across his face as he glanced toward the encroaching chaos. Anna, we need to go. Now. He urged, his voice thick with urgency, but as hope flickered in that moment, something told me that leaving without confronting this would only deepen my wounds. The crowd surged, like an ocean wave crashing against the shore, and my heart raced with the weight of choices. In such a tangled web of destinies, could I hold on to hope and still reach for closure? I hesitated, torn between the turmoil ahead and the ghosts that hovered not far behind, knowing that I was at a precipice. Either I would stand and face this reckoning with open arms, or slip away lost once again, not just in the shadows of what was, but of everything yet to come. The ground shook beneath our feet, the echoes of chaos vibrating through my bones as I stood in that overwhelming moment of hesitation. The shadowy figures loomed larger, a tide of doom that promised to pull us under. I could feel Carl's urgency beside me, the warmth of his hand tightening around mine, but it paled in comparison to the pull of Walter as he re-emerged from the darkness, a ghost, a new dilemma spared from death but still buried in the wreckage of my yesterday. Anna! His voice called out, raw and fervent, a beacon in the quagmire of swirling emotions. My heart raced, caught between the urge to flee and the pull to confront the man who had once filled my world with laughter and pain alike. This was not just about him, but about me choices, the forgiveness I wanted to claim not just for him, but for my own fractured heart. Anna, please, come back. Walter's voice pierced through the chaos, a desperate plea that ignited memories of love and longing, but also the scars left by betrayal. Each step he took toward me felt monumental, wedging open the door to the past I thought I could securely lock away. Don't. Carl shouted, frustration spilling over. You don't owe him anything, Anna. His protective instinct was fierce, and I appreciated it, yet there, woven into those words was the undeniable truth: I had moved on, yet he still had a piece of me, a corner of my heart that battled with the yearning for closure. Let me go, I whispered softly to Carl, my voice drowning in a tide of fear and yearning. I couldn't push away this chance to face what had tormented me for too long. I need to hear him out. I felt Carl's grip falter, desperation flickering in his eyes, but he released my hand, a silent acknowledgement of the battle within my heart. I stepped forward, the earth shifting beneath me, but with each advance, I felt a flicker of resolve igniting inside me, a need to see the truth for what it was, to confront the past that had shaped me. I came looking for you because I need you to know I've changed, Walter said, his voice steady, but his eyes reflected an abyss of vulnerability. I could see the weight of his journey pressing against his shoulders. I never stopped caring about you. And I've realized how selfish I was when I pushed you away. Those momentary highs were overshadowed by pain, and it was all because I never listened to you. Then why go? I shot back, the bitterness spilled from my heart. Do you really think that was the answer? Leaving me because you were scared? Anger shaped my words, and I clasped onto that familiar emotion as if it could shield me from the years of hurt. Do you think that by standing here now you can fix what was broken? He shook his head, sorrow enveloping him. I don't expect forgiveness, not after everything. But when this chaos unfolded, I knew I had to find you. You deserve a chance to move on freely, Anna, and if that means letting you go, then I'll accept it. All I ask is for this moment to tell you that I am truly sorry. A rush of emotion washed over me, pulling open that locked box of memories I had set aside. I remembered the promise in our laughter, the dreams we once shared, the way we had believed love could conquer everything. But shadows spilled over those beautiful moments, memories entwined with sorrow and betrayal. Each "I love you" turned into a bitter reminder of unfulfilled promises. Why now, Walter? I looked deep into his eyes, searching for truth, longing for the closure that had eluded me for so long. These moments, this chaos, do they give you clarity where you once saw muddiness? Yes, he replied, taking a step closer, his gaze unwavering. I see how blinded I was by my own insecurities. I've done so much reflecting and digging into myself after leaving, and I've come to respect how I've failed. But I can't change what's been done, only how I move forward. I could feel the pulse of time before us, the air thickening with history. Each moment felt heavier, every breath mingled with possibility. What would it mean to finally let go? The echoes of self-doubt whispered in my mind, was this my chance to forgive him? To forgive myself for holding on to resentment that allowed me to remain shackled to the past? With the shadows drawing closer, a decision coursed through me, resonating deep within my soul. I was tired of running, tired of the tug-of-war between allowing love and preserving my own heart. I had faced despair yet emerged stronger, and as this moment unfolded, I chose to confront not just Walter but myself, my fears, and my needs. That I forgive you, I said, the words tumbling out before I could process them fully. Not for you, but for me. I'll never forget the hurt, the betrayal. You shattered everything I held dear, but I need to heal. I want to untangle myself from the web of pain you wove and find my path again. Tears shimmered in Walter's eyes, gratitude flushing his cheeks, but I could feel the tide rising beneath us, the tension still thick like fog. I sensed Carl watching from the fringes, the mix of anger and understanding painted on his face as he absorbed my choice. But I can't go back to what we had. That's gone, I added, my heart thudding as I turned to face Carl. What we had, Walter, is buried beneath the weight of the past. I want to explore the unknown now, the beauty of life beyond our shadows. There was a moment of silence, where history hung heavily, and Walter nodded slowly, acceptance blooming in his regret. I understand. I respect that you wish to move forward. I just needed to tell you one last time. His voice cracked, emotion swirling around us like leaves caught in a wild wind, a reminder that our broken fragments could still make a beautiful mosaic, and just as I turned away, a roar erupted behind us, a sound so familiar it sent chills down my spine. The shadows surged forward, like a wolf pack bound and relentless, emerging from the edges of despair. Chaos erupted, and I pulled away instinctively, brushing past Walter as if releasing him meant collapsing to the chaos around me. Everyone, back to the center. The woman called again, her lips firm with determination. We can help each other fight this. Her voice became a rallying cry, igniting the embers of courage deep within me. Fueled by newfound resolve, I raced toward the gathering, and in doing so, I felt the burdens of yesterday latch onto the remnants of hope, loosening their grip on my heart. We can do this together. I shouted, feeling the warmth of urgency stir within me. Whether for Walter or Carl, it didn't matter. A resurgence of strength welled in my spirit amidst the onslaught. As we formed into a protective line, readying ourselves against the figures that approached, I caught one last glimpse of Walter from the corner of my eye. He stood, holding the weight of our past as shadows hung heavy over him. As they merged together, the darkness had no claim on the hope I felt growing alongside the light. This moment pushed me toward the potential of new bonds. I stood resolutely, shoulders squared against the encroaching chaos. The past would always whisper, but standing with my newfound companions, I braced against the storm, ready to face whatever came my way. In the grip of another awakening, we faced the darkness together, no longer tethered to our ghosts, but grounded in a collective strength that promised rebirth with every resonating heartbeat. The moment encapsulated the end of an era and the beginning of another, for invisibly, together, we stepped forward into the storm while the laughter of children danced on our hearts, echoing with the promise of new beginnings. And until the light revealed a path, I found my voice powerfully and unequivocally shouting into the abyss, we are defining our tomorrow, and we will rise.